So this is an interview with His Excellency Ambassador Alberto Antonio Guani Amarilla. Dear Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us today in Berlin, and thank you for excellent keynote speech. We have a few questions for you. So first of all, what would be your definition of cultural diplomacy, and how has it influenced your work? Do you have any examples, perhaps?
Sure. Well, first I want to reply also my thanks because I think it's a very interesting possibility to change points of view and at the same time address the issue of cultural diplomacy. In my case, personally, I've been quite attached to it because I had been previously working as Director General for Cultural Affairs, and I had to do with the issue with the first time we met among the Ibero-American states in Colombia, in Medellin. And that's where we all wanted to also have a definition of cultural diplomacy. It was not very easy to reach a definition, but I find that I very much apply what Jean Monnet said in his speech regarding the construction of the European common market. And if he had to do things again, what would he do? And he said, well, I would start by culture. And I think that there's a necessity. We need to address that certain cultural differences are sometimes what provoke conflict. And of course, all of our goal means to, through means like with diplomacy, avoid those conflicts to happen. We are in a very complex world, and we are in a world in which many times the source of conflicts comes from many, many issues. I have been dealing also with this project that has to do with Alliance of Civilizations in the United Nations, which is an interesting point of view, but we also need to understand that if we do not understand ourselves culturally, we cannot bind our differences. And that is where cultural diplomacy has a very central role in order to achieve peace. That is, I think, the most precious value that we all want. So I would say that if we do not have a cultural diplomacy to solve the problems that generate conflict, we do not have anything.
Yes, thank you.
According to you, could cultural diplomacy be a way to solve troubles in a more efficient way? And have you already used this type of diplomacy?
Yes, in a certain way, you say that, for example, certain values that have to do with culture. For example, I can give you a concrete example. In a time when they would say that Argentina and Uruguay, we were a little bit in problems, we were also building how to put, for example, tango and candombe, that are two cultural expressions, as a World Human Heritage in the UNESCO, which has already been achieved in 2009. So in a moment when people would say that we were almost the merge of our conflict, we were being brought together through two important values that have to do with what we, both sides of the Rio de la Plata, from the river, we think. So the contribution of culture is something that I very much think it's basic, because if you do not know what others think and how we can share certain values too, it's very difficult to overcome distant points of view. So I find it that I have experienced that there's if you have a good use of certain issues that can evolve into comprehension and understanding, then you're ready to go.
Definitely, thank you. How do you think tourism could be a sustainable way to help resolve the issue of the unemployment?
Well, it is a great source, as I was saying in my speech, that Uruguay, for example, considers that basically all its gross national product is almost around 16% devoted, has to do with tourism. And of course, that tourism also generates different industries that have to do to supply with accommodations, with restaurants, with all kind of different services that can be lent to be devoted to the tourists. I mean, we have even used that new companies that have to do with software, for example, they have invented or they have put in the market ways to address those things, for when people go and do something, when they order whatever that is used through a computer, you can have all those systems. And you can have people being engaged in not only producing, but also trying to exchange what they produce through different associations that can be of the same thing. Nowadays, the knowledge and the way of seeing how you respect even the environment, how you do certain issues that are friendly to a human being is what one needs to take in account. So I think that if you're responsible and that if you can build up all these different policies in order to make of that something that you have to empower, the human resources will be more capacity, will have more capacity to adapt to the innovation and the new challenges that we have.
Your Excellency, just following on that, how would you say it would be possible to develop and valorize tourism as an engine of growth?
Well, first I was saying that even I noticed that tourism has not been put as one of the main issues in order to achieve development. The UNWTO has put it, of course, as its main issue, but separately, it has not been put as a way to understand the growth of the economy as a whole. Because you can say we are all devoted in combating poverty, okay, but how can you do that by certain measures that are directly related to tourism? Because when you cannot allow people to move, and when you have conflicts and you have a lot of situations that attempt against tourism, you cannot have tourism. So, as I was saying, the first thing is that we need to avoid the circumstances that go against normal development of a touristic activity, but at the same time make people be conscious that through tourism you can do a lot of other things. You can protect the environment, you can protect people from being in bad situations, you can have all good circumstances that can be generated through tourism. So it's always when you say if you destroy the gold mine, what are you going to do with the resource? So, and we all know mainly all countries have particular attractions, their own creations in order to attract tourists. But if you don't have a good circumstances, you can have a paradise and nobody will go there.
Regarding these bad circumstances, we're all witnessing very, very disturbing situation in Ukraine. So, as a diplomat, what is your thinking regarding which global political actions could be launched to help resolve the issue?
Well, I think that maybe one of the biggest distortions that we have right now is how to address the problems in world governability. I mean, if you cannot make certain problems reach the table and make a decision over them, how can you then be able to solve them. I mean, we all know that we need a different way of seeing things in the world, but the reform of the United Nations is taking years. We are not getting there, and well, I say that maybe nowadays people have different ways of accessing towards those issues. I was saying that, well, we have proved that in Latin America, for example, in the last 10 years, we have been growing a lot of middle-class people, and that is fantastic, because you can say, well, they have access. What they did in my country, for example, the Plan Ceibal is 1 computer per child. Is something that has been a revolution, because you have a kid that has never had a computer, has had it there in his house, he took it to his house and he taught his father, his mother, and then they were in a better economic situation. They started buying their laptops or their iPods or whatever, and they got into the information society. So when you see those things happening, because when you give chances to people, because not everybody can come for the same, not everybody was born in a golden cradle, how you say, but you need to also see that if you want to democratize and you want to make inclusions, that's why my country, as I was saying, has been so much devoted in the protection of human rights and taking that all those issues need to be incorporated into the citizens and to the people in order to claim for their own rights. And that's what you basically need to go along with.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for your time. It's an honor and pleasure having you here with us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.